Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Habs make a signing. Rumor roundup is back, and this time we're looking towards the Dallas Stars. And finally, what should the Montreal Canadiens do with their 2 picks in the first round in the upcoming draft?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank you all for making us your first listener of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And we're so grateful to you for making us part of your day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. My name is Laura Saba. You might know me as the Active Stick. You might have seen my work on Habs Eyes on the Prize or Hockey Primetime. And you will know my co-host from The Build or Rabid Habs. That's the Wayback Machine. His name is Ian Poirier, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Ian, the Canadiens made a signing. We have some news.
We do, and it's it doesn't seem like a very consequential one on its face, but I think it kind of there's a larger lesson to look at here with the Montreal Canadiens and the signing of Vinzenz Rohrer, but we'll get into that in our episode today.
Vinzenz Rohrer was a fan favorite pick when he was picked in the 2022 NHL draft, when the Canadiens seemed to make home run after home run after home run after making a grand splash in the first round. He endeared himself to fans when the first thing he did was he was about to hug a Toronto draft pick to congratulate him, and he goes, "Oh no, that's Toronto! Can't do that." And that made people laugh. He's somebody who is, he's considered tenacious. He's a really fun player to watch. He hasn't been in the conversation very much, but I think that speaks more to the Montreal Canadiens' depth than it does about Vinzenz Rohrer, because he was such a late pick. He was a 4th-round pick, right? He was 4th round. I was like, I'm mixing them all up.
Third round, 75th overall in 2022.
Right, because they made, like, there was Owen Beck before that, and anyways, yeah. The Montreal Canadiens pretty much replenished their cupboard with that draft. So he wasn't somebody that was very much in the conversation, even though he was playing in Canada. And so this really, I think, it speaks to the way Montreal kind of deals with their prospects. It speaks to how much depth they have. And it also speaks to the patience that both the team and the player seem to have had up until this point.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to the fact that the Canadiens' 2022 draft class has been quite successful. You look at it now, the top 6 picks for the Montreal Canadiens are now under contract. Slavkovsky's about to enter his 2nd contract, but then you have Philip Méchard, who's yet to make the play an NHL game, but he's under contract, as is Owen Beck, Lane Hutson, Vinzenz Rohrer, and now and Adam Engstrom as well, who's been under contract but hasn't played in the NHL. I bet that changes this year. It actually wouldn't surprise me to see all 6 of those guys play NHL games at some point, which is a tease to the trivia question today. So 6 guys playing NHL games in one draft class. So we'll touch on that later. I was looking at this player, trying to get an understanding of what he projects to be at the NHL level, because you look at him, 5'11", 168. That seems antithetical to what the Canadiens are trying to become, right? He's a small winger. Mm-hmm. He can play center, but he projects as a winger in the NHL.
Yeah, he's also had a couple of key injuries, right, throughout his last couple of years. So that's been a little bit of a question mark as well. Not just not the fact that he got injured, but the impact on his development.
Exactly. It separates portions of his development. I also wonder, to a certain extent, how much getting injured is part of development, because you have to learn how to come back from an injury at a professional level, and you have to mentally understand how you can do that. I'm not saying every player should go out there and miss 6 weeks with a sprained ankle or something, but like, it seems like that, yes, it might hurt them in the sense that they hadn't been playing games, but it could be helpful to the psychological aspect of the game of being able to understand how to come back from something like that. He was 6th on Zurich in scoring, 15 goals, 10 assists, 25 points in 52 games. Sven Andrighetto also notably on that team. Just wanted to throw Sven Andrighetto mention out today. He went to the World Championships with Austria. He was 2nd in goal scoring and overall points. on Austria, 4 goals, 6 points. He was only behind Marco Kasper, who was a top 10 pick of the Detroit Red Wings in recent memory. Dauber Prospect says that Marty is going to appreciate his motor. And I think that's the key here because, again, the size is not part of the equation. Like, it doesn't mesh with what the Canadiens want to become. But motor, compete, like that is straight out of Jeff Gorton's mouth. They want guys who compete. And I think motor is a big part of that, right? Just his willingness to go. They project that he should become a valuable bottom 6 player with second line upside. So I think that this is an interesting development for the Canadiens because it's just another prospect who they signed to a contract. There are contract limits. They can't throw these things out like candy. So the fact that, when you give a prospect one, it means we think this guy can be valuable to us at the NHL or AHL level.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a vote of confidence for this kid.
Absolutely. He played in Ottawa in the OHL and had really impressive stats there as well. He was also a fan favorite there. Like there's something about this guy that I think it fits so much that mold, right? Like a little guy, but like who tries, right? The effort kind of makes up for the lack of size. The
Yep.
like, like you said, the compete level. That's something that Marty loves. And again, like signing a player to an entry level deal does not necessarily guarantee that this person is going to make the NHL. It's still up to him to earn it. The understanding is, though, that this means that he's either going to be playing in the NHL or in Europe, kind of like a Kapanen type situation, which isn't, it's not going to hurt him. It's not going to hurt the Montreal Canadiens. And like you said, it's not going to be surprising if we see him in the lineup this year, kind of like we saw Kapanen at the beginning of the year. And then at the end of the season, he came back, right?
Yeah. I think that's definitely a possibility. Maybe he plays. He's gonna come over for development camp. And I think just being around the guys, especially, he's a small-ish forward. He's not, tiny. He's just under 6 feet. But learning from guys like Marty and Brendan Gallagher and Cole Caufield on how they stay effective at their size. He doesn't project to have the offense that those guys had, but, if he's an effective third line, annoying, winger, and, I don't know who, maybe Florian Xhekaj is down the middle at some point there. Maybe Owen Beck is down the middle at some point on that line. And then maybe Emil Heineman on the other side. That's an annoying line. I think I'm starting to understand the kind of player the Canadiens want to see in their bottom 6, and it's pest. They want those 2 lines to come over the boards and the other team to be like, oh, fine, we have to deal with these guys. Like that to me is the ultimate sign of respect for a line like that, who isn't going to score every night. They might not score for an entire week, but the goal is we're going to go out there. We're not going to make a lot of mistakes, and we're going to make the other team very annoyed to have to deal with us. That seems kind of like the player that Rohrer is going to turn out to be if he plays his cards right and he develops the way that Montreal hopes he does.
Yeah, and I think that there's something really, really important in what you said, right? Like back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, a pest would just be a guy that's annoying. But we don't have that anymore. Now the pests are people who still have to have that skill. They still have to have either defensive responsibility, they have to be able to be good with the puck, they have to be able to maybe take the puck away, win face-off. They have to bring something else to the table. It's like the size conversation we talk about. It's not worth going after size for size's sake, but at the same time, like I do find that the idea, like when you said annoying winger, and I'm like, annoying winger is going to be the next hot commodity in the NHL because those guys are the ones that really make the opponent's life difficult. And at the end of the day, if they're not scoring goals, at the very least, they're tiring them out, they're wearing them out, they're making it easier for your scoring lines when it's their chance to come out. You're making it easier for them to succeed at what they've set out to do. So I really love the idea of just having annoying lines.
Yeah. And, the bottom 6 lends itself to that sort of behavior because, we're not expecting them to be offensively potent every night, right? That's the first and second line's job. And, as long as Marty wants to be able to roll 4 lines, you have to be able to do something. And, I think that's sort of the role that Vinzenz Rohrer has played over in Zurich. By the way, Zurich won back-to-back championships with him there. That's got to be great experience for that kid as well, right? To go into a winning organization, win back-to-back championships. I mean, he might end up back over there again this year, winning a third for all we know. So it's it's good for the kid to get the contract. I think it's very telling that the Canadiens were willing to give him one at this point in his career, and hopefully they see this as an NHL option in the future.
Absolutely. And I'm just really excited because he's such a likable guy for the Montreal Canadiens. I
Yeah.
think for Canadiens fans, right? Like, and I'd be very happy if Canadiens fans are the only ones that love him by the time he's done playing in the NHL. Very
Yeah.
much like a Brendan Gallagher. You know, everybody kind of hates Brendan Gallagher except Montreal Canadiens fans, and there's a reason for that, right? And we love him. All right, so that's it for our entry level signing. You know, as the teams get ready for the draft, like it looks like vacation mode is over, and there's going to be some work that's going to be done in the next few weeks before everyone goes in their cottages for July. So speaking of that work, we've got rumor roundup that's coming back in our next segment, and we're looking over at Dallas, and they might be screwed, and the Montreal Canadiens may be able to take advantage. Ever look at your bank account and wonder where did all your money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery and getting takeout, and now I budget so much smarter and I save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, but also plan your long term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. And that's so important because money, as you know, is a huge stressor in relationships. So, Monarch Money can help you track shared and personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without all that stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, the hat is back, which means it can only mean one thing. Rumor Roundup is back. You'll see the cowboy hat. Why? Because we rate our rumors in yeehaws, not stars, not points, yeehaws. All right, Ian, what have we got?
We're headed to Dallas, where this hat would actually make a lot of sense. The Dallas Stars are in a bit of trouble with their salary cap heading into next season, and as a result, they are looking at offloading some talented players in Jason Robertson and Mason Marchment. They have just under $5 million in cap space, and they have a bunch of guys left to re-sign. They have currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 UFAs at forward, including Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, Evgeny Dodonov, Mikhail Granlund, and Colin Blackwell, as well as Maverick Bourque at the end of his entry-level deal. He's now a restricted free agent. I think what happened here, just looking this over, is they kind of went all in on the Mikko Rantanen train, which, not to say that was a bad idea, but it certainly means that they are out of cap space now because they have to sign. They want to keep almost all of those guys I listed, and they don't have any money to do that. So they might need to send some of these guys out the door for nothing of NHL return coming back.
Futures.
So, yeah, exactly, which the Canadiens have in spades. The problem is lots of other teams are trying to do the same thing, right? Like, this is going to become a bidding war for those two players. Jason Robertson is entering the last year of his four-year deal, making $7.75 million each year. Well, that's the cap hit. The problem is that they kind of front-loaded some of this, or back-loaded a lot of it, which makes his qualifying offer quite high as a restricted free agent. With that said, he's 2 years removed from 2 40-goal seasons. So that is a player who, yes, even though he's on the wing, I mean, you could go Robertson, Guy, Ivan Demidov on your second line and just be really happy about that, no?
Yes, it doesn't render the 2C or not 2C conversation moot,
No.
but it does really improve your chances of getting away with not getting someone like let's say a Sam Bennett that people keep clamoring for.
Yeah, and it looks like Sam Bennett's going to stay in Florida, and at a price that is kind of surprising in that it's very low, and he probably could have gotten way more on the open market. It's reported that he's going to sign 8x8 either, by the end of this series or at some point before free agency, which is just kind of crazy to think about. I would have thought that number was starting with a 9, but to each
He
their
could
own.
have easily gotten 10.5, I think. But there's something about staying in Florida for him, right? Like the like what they've been able to accomplish over the last 3 years, plus no salary, no income tax, plus like his buddies, his bros. Like I feel like if he was on the open market, that like he wouldn't even consider 8.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But back to the Stars, looking at their draft, their upcoming draft picks, they have no first rounders for their next 2 years. Their next first round pick comes in 2027. They have no second rounder this year. They have a third rounder. They have no fourth, 2/5, and then their sixth and seventh. They have no thirds or fourths next year. They have no third in 2027. So they have traded quite a bit of their roster away. They just fired their coach, and now it looks like they're trying to trade away 2 very young, promising. Mason Marchment's promising. Jason Robertson is promised. Like, we already know what he is. He's a goal scorer and an effective one at that. So, like, you're getting an established player in Jason Robertson. Is he he's got to be the one that you're going after first and foremost, right? Like, that's the one I would want.
For any team.
Yeah, I think so. Unless you've
Yeah.
got a glut of wingers, and even though Montreal does have a lot of wingers, you make room for a guy like Jason Robertson, who you could then eventually get locked up long term, and your top 6, once you find that second line center, is set. It's nice to think that you have 2 lines that you could roll out and could be better than a lot of teams' first lines.
Yeah.
I would be willing to trade a lot of parts for Jason Robertson, and not even short of next year's first, which I know is like scary to some people because, like, what if we're bad? Okay, doesn't really matter. We'll have Jason Robertson, who's quite good, and all of these other parts that are quite good. Is there a limit to you? Like, is there something you would say, no, I'm not moving that?
Core players or players expected to be part of the core. Like for me, like Michael Hayes is a non-starter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair. And Reinbacher would be a no. Outside
it's
of
funny.
those
I've
guys,
already penciled him into the NHL core next
yeah,
year.
exactly. Like, he's hardly a prospect at this point. We've already gotten, yeah. He's going to be there. It's fine.
Yeah.
I sort of the same way. Like, I'm ready to throw a variety of things at those players. The problem then becomes, like, you have to make a move for center using some other means, right? You have to either hope Kirby Dach pans out, hope Kirby Dach can stop the bleeding until Michael Hayes is ready, or find a free agent. And that could be quite difficult. Or trade from your roster to get a center, and that's rearranging chairs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just that's the least of the Canadiens' favorite options right now.
Okay, well let's think about that free agent option though. Like if they have Jason Robertson, they play well next year. Maybe they don't even have to make the playoffs. They just have to show that promise, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't a free agent then want to come here?
Yeah, I mean, you could if you're a free agent center and it looks like you're going to come in and play between Jason Robertson and Ivan Demidov, that's pretty cool, right? Like, and you're insulated by Nick Suzuki. You're not even expected to be the guy. I think that they're creating an environment where a free agent may snap at the opportunity to go into that situation.
Yeah.
The Canadiens have never been that market for guys, right? Like, in my lifetime, I don't think they've signed a big fish free agent. Like, maybe Tyler Toffoli was the best one.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of others that were like dying to play here. Mike Hoffman, ooh, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Or David Savard, which was the end of his career. All right, I think we have to go on to our next one, but we haven't rated this one yet.
Yeah, we have to do our EHAs here. So I think from a realism perspective, we kind of charted exactly why Dallas has to do this. So from a realism, that's a 5 out of 5 EHAs. Like, they're kind of up against it, right?
Yeah, they've got to trade him.
Yeah, and from an entertainment standpoint, like, Jason Robertson is a premier goal scorer in the NHL. I'm very excited to see where he goes. I hope it is somewhere that is cool and not bad. So 5 out of 5 yeehaws as well for entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. All right, Mason Marchment, really quick.
Oh, I mean, Mason Marchment's kind of the second guy that's going to move here. I'm not all that concerned. I mean, Mason Marchment would be cool. He said, I think he certainly plays the way that the Canadians would want to play. He is a free agent. He is a UFA next year, so he's got a $4.5 million cap hit now, and he has no trade protection. So he has a modified no trade clause. So he would be actually tougher to get from the player has to want to be here standpoint, but he would probably cost you less in actual assets. The problem is now the clock's ticking on UFA. You'd probably have to have a good idea that he wants to sign before you make that move.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got less risk.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's the second one to move because I think Jason Robertson is the one that the bigger cap hit will free up more space for Dallas and will net them more of a return that then they can use as currency to add to this team when they have, more clarity in their salary cap picture.
Yeah. All right. We're kind of this isn't rumor roundup anymore. We're going to be doing some educated guessing on what the Canadiens should do with picks 16 and 17 in the upcoming NHL draft. And that's coming up in just a second here on Locked On Canadiens. Hat change. All right.
We did it. We pulled it off. Only a little crooked. We're back.
The draft is creeping up on us. It is actually at the end of next week. And this time around, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be decentralized, but there's still an event happening that people can get tickets to. I'm not really sure how exactly all of this is going on. I'm just curious as to what we think the Montreal Canadiens are going to do with picks 16 and 17. The general wisdom seems to indicate that people think they will draft with one and trade the other. But my question is, what if they trade both?
Yeah. I think the challenge with trading these picks at this point is the market has very clearly defined itself as a bunch of teams who are trying to do the same thing the Canadiens are, right? Utah has the 4th pick. They don't really want to pick 4th. They would much rather get help now. They'd rather get better immediately. I think Nashville is another team like that who might want to get better now. It doesn't seem like they want to rebuild. It seems like there are a lot of teams who have what the Canadiens have and who want to do what the Canadiens want to do. That's what challenges things here. Unless you're hoping that maybe Kent Hughes made some headway on trade talks at the deadline. He said he was in on a bunch of things that just never worked out. I think one of those was Dylan Cousins, to be honest. I wonder what irons he still has in the fire from those conversations. I will say that, let's say they keep both picks. I think that if they do that, the most likely outcome for me is that they use one on a player with a safe floor. Let's make sure we got a player with one of these picks. And then on the other one, they take a home run swing at somebody who maybe doesn't project to be a sure thing NHLer, but the upside is incredible. As a bit of a tease, tomorrow we'll go through the Elite Prospects Draft Guide a little bit, walk you guys through that. By the way, you should be buying that if you haven't already. It's an incredible resource for fans, people who do jobs like us. You should be reading that draft guide. It's incredible. One of the tools that they have, that they list traits for players, is got that dog in them. So that's really great. I really love to see that. I will be filtering by those players because I want to know which players have that dog in them. So we're doing some research on some of those guys. We're going to start to talk about them tomorrow a little bit. So we won't get into specifics today on names, but just concepts, right? I think there's an opportunity here for the Canadiens to use one of those picks sort of as a security blanket. Hey, we got our one guy, whatever, the other one's gravy. And then they take a big swing on a guy who might have some incredible tools and might be able to become something special in the NHL. But if those tools don't hit, he's not an NHLer. That's the kind of player that I think they can take a shot on.
So when would you say the last time they took a big swing like that was?
It wasn't. I know people would say Slafkovsky. I don't think that's the right answer because I think, people think that Slafkovsky was the big swing. Slafkovsky is probably the safer option, given that his floor was probably a little bit higher than what Shane Wright's might have been at the time. I don't know the last time they took a big swing. Maybe like a Phil Machar, but Phil Machar didn't like project as something all that spectacular, right? Like I think one of the biggest swings was probably Cole Caufield, right? Small forward who was sliding in the draft because he was small. And he was a player that I feel like, and I want to talk about this tomorrow with some of the players that I have lined up. The small guys that fall in the first round are always the ones that teams go, we should have taken that guy.
Yeah.
Almost always. Like you look back at these drafts and it's just all these guys whose the height starts with a 5 and teams go, nope, can't do it. And they make fools of them, like Cole Caufield has. That to me, like Cole Caufield's probably that last really big swing that they took, and they needed to make that swing because they had no offense. You know, they had to get a goal scorer, and they did it. So for me, that's probably the last big swing they took.
It worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it sure did, and it's made a lot of other teams look really bad. Philadelphia, for example, is the one team everybody looks at because they passed.
But lots of teams passed.
Didn't Florida take Spencer Knight? They took a goalie. You know, they had Bobrovsky and they took a goalie who I guess they traded and got Seth Jones, and he's been an incredible part of their team since the trade deadline. So guess that worked out for him. But yeah, I think, you know, sure, a lot of times those small guys don't pan out, but when they do, a lot of teams look really foolish. They're like, Lane Hudson is a perfect example of that. He's not so much of a big swing because not only was he a second-round pick, he was a second-round pick that you got in a trade. So it wasn't even like your own. You were able to go, well, we got this like a freebie. Like we get to do whatever we want with this one. I just think that this, I don't think the Canadiens have ever been in this opportunity in the first round where they've picked twice in a row. I don't think that's happened. I'd like to look back into that and see, but it's rare when it happens at all in the first round. So I can't imagine it's happened very much. But they have a rare opportunity here to do something. I think that our hopes for them trading those picks have kind of evaporated because I just think it is a seller's market out there, in that people want players and not picks. Like they don't want to do that anymore. I guess it would be a buyer's market then at that point.
The salary cap going up kind of has helped a lot of teams. A lot of teams also unexpectedly being bad has helped them. So I think
Nashville is fascinating to me. Nashville might be kind of a linchpin in this entire thing because if they start moving their picks around, who knows?
Exactly. So I think it's really interesting, like what you said. I'm still holding out hope for immediate help, particularly in the center sort of genre. But that's what everyone wants, and what the Canadiens are offering is what everyone else is offering. All right, shall we do our trivia and get out of here?
Yeah, you had Friday's question, so why don't you go ahead and hit us with that one?
Oh yes. I completely forgot what it was.
Throw it right back to you.
It is, yeah, I know. I was like, let's do trivia. Okay. So my question was, in honor of Chris Kreider being yeeted to the Western Conference, the Montreal Canadiens beat Boston to get into that series with Chris Kreider and the New York Rangers. Who scored the series-winning goal? And the answer was Max Pacioretty.
It was, and it was provided to us correctly by Super Rain and Jeff Harple, two guys who are always in the conversation for getting these questions right. So thank you for sending in your responses today and playing along with us. All right, today's question, I hinted to it earlier when I mentioned that the Canadiens have signed their first 6 picks from the 2022 draft. When was the last time the Montreal Canadiens had 6 picks in a draft all play games in the NHL? Not necessarily with the Canadiens, but when was the last time they had 6 players that they have picked in the NHL draft play games in the National Hockey League? If you have the answer, put it in the comments below this video. Send it to us via email. We'll shout you out on the next episode of the show, but only if you're right. You have to get the answer right.
I think I kind of know the answer, but if you guys do, please send us the answer. You can leave it in the YouTube comments. You can also send it to us via email. We're at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Also, please send us mailbag questions on there. Also, send us your anecdotes and stories. We get so many and we love them. You know, whether it's pictures of your kids in Habs jerseys, whether it's stories where you've met Canadians or former Canadiens legends, all that stuff, but also mailback questions and segment ideas. You guys always come through for us. The lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com is where all of that goes. But we're also on social media at Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram, and our handle is Locked On Canadians on all of those. In the meantime, subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Tell your friends, leave reviews, let people find us. You will find my co-host all over social media at Maybe It's Ian. You will find me at The Active Stick. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow.